Hello, I'm Dr. Ron England, and I'm going to bring you forth this beautiful little JavaScript video on simple drawing on a canvas. And this is kind of really the basics of drawing on the canvas itself. I am doing this in JS Fiddle, so these fiddles are available through my lectures page. Before I start, I want to note that in the options here, I did set the framework to no wrap in head. I could have also done no wrap in body. Just the way that I've actually got it set up to run these, that's going to be one of the options you have to set to make it work. Now, what I'm going to do here is I've got a button that says draw circle, and when I click it, it's going to draw a circle. Okay, well, you can use the circle function of the canvas to do this, but I'm actually going to do this by using an equation and incrementing a variable to do this. And that's going to be important because some of the assignments in my class are going to require you to do things like this where you actually have the thing animate through the line. So, the button on click draw circle should be pretty self-explanatory, and then underneath that I've got a canvas called my canvas. This is the HTML5 canvas. One simple function, draw circle. So the first thing that you do is you get the canvas and put it in a variable, document get element by ID canvas, so the canvas is going to be named C. I set R, the radius of the circle, to be equal to the width of the canvas divided by 2. Okay, and if you look at the circle, that should be kind of self-explanatory how I set this. For drawing on a canvas, you first have to get a context, and the context we get in this case is a two-dimensional context, which is done through the getContext function of the canvas. So you're going to get context 2D, and you're going to set that to the variable CTX. I've got a lot more videos on context and canvases, but right now we're just going to get the basics out of how to make something happen. So I'm going to draw the circle now. Okay. This is pretty simple to do. A little bit of function here. I've got the variable t. In this case, I haven't even set t yet, so it's going to be equal to 0. But I'm going to set the x and the y, which in this case is going to be with t equal to 0. And the function to do this, to draw the circle, I'm going to start at r plus r times math cosine t for the x and r plus math sine t for the y. I'm not going to explain exactly how all of this works as far as the function, but just suffice it to say that using the cosine and the sine function and incrementing t will let you draw a circle. Okay, the x will be what you get from the cosine, and the y will be what you get from the sine. And the reason I add r plus r times this, r being the radius of the circle, is that I have to offset the circle to be in the middle of the canvas. Then all I do is I increment from t equals 0, okay, through t is equal to 2 times pi, and I'm incrementing by 0.1 here, and then I just set the x and the y. I'm using the math.floor function so that it returns an integer. I could also, by this way, use the ceiling function. I'm just demonstrating a function. Math.floor just returns the integer at the low value of the equation that I have inside of here because it's going to return a floating point, and I actually want an integer. I draw the line to x and y, I call the context stroke, and voila, I get it. If I were to reload this, okay, I would now just hit the draw circle. It's pretty straightforward. It draws that circle here. Well, that was kind of fun, but let's do something a little bit more interesting here with drawing a circle. So we're going to go one step further. I'm going to go to my dashboard, and I'm going to use a timer this time. All right, so in this case, what's what I do? If I hit start drawing, it draws the circle. Now, you notice you actually got to see it draw the circle this time, and that's because I do this with a timer. Now, the concepts of the circle drawing are essentially the same, also with the context part of it. Now, if I hit start drawing again, it's going to draw another circle. If I do it again, I'll draw another circle. And notice each time I draw the circle, it's a slightly different color. Well, I've done a few things here. One of which is I do have an on click, which says do drawing, and it's going to draw on the canvas. So it's going to come down here and run do drawing. I moved the variable t, c, r, and ctx outside of the function because they're global variables. They're going to be global to the whole thing. So when you hit do drawing, it sets t equal to 0. And then it does something really fun. It sets the color to a random hexadecimal color. That's just a function that sets a random hex. And down here, I've got CTX stroke style equals color. So it actually tells the context to draw this in a color. Because I'm going to draw over and over again, I do have to use the begin path in this case. I could have used the begin path in the last function, but I didn't have to because I was only drawing it one time. Now I'm drawing it, and I'm going to actually, every time I click start drawing, I want it to start over again. Now, here comes the interesting part. I used the var interval equals set interval. Set interval is a function of a timer function. What it's going to do is it's going to run this function that I defined here, okay, over and over again every 20 milliseconds. So what it's going to do, every 20 milliseconds, it's going to call, it's going to go through and check times run plus equal to 1. If times equals 65, then it's going to clear the interval. That means it's going to stop running the interval. And then the function that's going to get called is draw circle. So every 20 milliseconds, this whole thing is called, including the draw circle. The if times run equals 65 just says, okay, when you get to 65 times that you've actually run done this whole thing, stop doing it. So that it actually stops. And down here, I've got draw circle, where it sets the X and the Y, and it does a line to it, and it does a stroke. So every time I click start drawing, it goes in, okay? Then it sets up the interval, the set interval function. It runs through it 65 times, which is enough times to draw a full circle, and then it stops. The only other thing that I've got here that you might not have seen before, the context, which is CTX is the context, okay, for the canvas, does not actually have a clear function. My opinion, it really should have a clear. However, you can implement a clear function of another object. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm actually creating a new function for the context. And the context is actually a canvas rendering context 2D object. So what I've actually done here is I've defined a function of this object. It's called a prototype, okay, where you create a function. I'm not going to go into the details of this. I actually do go into the details of creating functions of existing objects using the prototype capability in other lectures. But suffice it to say, the rest of the code here is simply code that clears the canvas. And then that's it. So I've got this really neat, starts the drawing, looks like a nice animation because it's using a timer to go ahead and draw it. And it's a pretty interesting function for you. Both of these functions are available in JS Fiddle, or both of these JavaScripts are available in JS Fiddle, so you can see how they're done. But hopefully you were able to follow my descriptions in the code. Thank you very much, and good programming.